A hidden tax that's coming your way. And my way too. All right, so this is from the Tax Foundation. Who will pay for the roads? August 25th, 2020. We're going to start with the, and I'll put a link in the show notes. The future of funding for America's highways has been the topic of much political discussion for decades. While many states have increased motor fuel tax rates over the last decade, the federal government has not updated the tax since 1993. The motor fuel tax is a relatively well-designed tax which acts as a user fee by raising revenue to fund the highway system. It also aims to counter the negative side effects of driving ICE, internal combustion engines, and their contribution to congestion and various pollution. Tax revenues per mile traveled, VMT, are decreasing in real terms while expenditures are increasing in real terms. In 1994, a passenger car averaged 20.7 miles per gallon, and drivers pay 3.2 cents in state and federal tax per vehicle mile traveled. So for every mile, you pay 3.2 cents in tax. In 2018, the tax on a vehicle for mile travel was down to 2.1 cents, and the reason for that is because your passenger car averaged 24.4 miles per gallon. Hold on just a second. Obviously, is a higher efficiency mileage per gallon is allowing you to pay less taxes. However, we still have the roads that need to be funded. All right. Discrepancies between tax revenues and highway expenditures will get worse as fuel economy improves. If tax rates are not indexed for inflation, or if the share of the EVs, electric vehicle, grows. One solution is to fund highways by taxing vehicle miles traveled, rather than using taxes on cars and motor fuel as a proxy for transportation. A tax levied directly on miles traveled gets closer to capturing our externalities and approximating the road maintenance cost of each vehicle. Yep. A federal vehicle mile tax must average 1.7 cents per mile to cover the highway fund's expenditures. The actual rate per vehicle should be differentiated based on weight per axle. Okay, so I want to go back to this thing they're talking about. There's a quote from Reagan, which I thought was pretty interesting. Wow, big yawn. Which, let's see if I can't find it. Hold on a sec. Here, so President Reagan once observed that our country's outstanding highway system was built on the user fee principle, that those who benefit from a use should share in its cost. Yeah, I completely agree on that. Good job, Ronald Wilson Reagan. All right, hold on just a second. So at the federal level, the revenue from the motor fuel taxes has not been sufficient to cover transportation expenditures since 2008. And there's no reason to think this will reverse itself. On the contrary, it's going to get worse, driven by technological advances and regulation like the corporate average fuel economy, the CAFE standards, which results in better miles per gallon and may encourage a switch to alternative fuels, which means using the motor fuel tax as a user fee will be more challenging as more EVs come to the market. The development has been going on for decades, which will result in cents raised by motor fuel taxes declining over time, and will continue to do so. The U.S. EIA, Energy Information Administration, estimates that gas consumption will decline 19% through 2050. So here's the nominal, and here's the real. Look at that, man. That's that's a big difference there. Gasoline consumption decline will erode gas tax revenue. This is with inflation adjusted. This is taking inflation into consideration. It's not going up, let's just put it that way, but the price to put roads is going up. While traditional motor fuel taxes will eventually become outdated, there could be a suitable policy tool in the short term for most states. One of the biggest threats against the levy is electric vehicles, as they do not contribute to the state highway funds or federal highway funds. There are currently less than 2 million electric vehicles in the U.S. out of a vehicle fleet of more than 268 million, which means missed revenues from the EVs are still low. However, one forecast suggests EVs may comprise 17.5% of U.S. auto sales by 2028, which would be a problem for your highway funds. At the federal level, motor fuel taxes are rather salient. This year, the Highway Trust Fund's current funding tool, the FAST Act, expires, which means federal policy makers should decide on what future federal highway funding looks like. For a true long-term solution to fund highway spending in the U.S., the policymakers should reconsider alternatives to simply raising the motor fuel tax or figure out a way to lower overall costs. All right, so state revenues per vehicle mile tax has been flat since the 80s. Look at that, man. You want to get down? The development of a state tax revenue per vehicle mile tax indicates that most states have continuously increased their gas tax rates to keep up with inflation since the 1990s. Just basically stay flat, though. And there's nominal inflation, is real. So this is with inflation, this is after inflation taken out. The picture is slightly different when looking at federal tax collections, where rates have held constant in recent years. All right, so hold on just a sec. The federal gas tax has been eroded by inflation. So we haven't increased it since 1993. It's been here 18.5 cents per gallon since, but with inflation, it's gone right here, man. I mean, look at that. And so if we don't increase that at some point or something, it's going to keep going down. Just as an FYI, I'm a big fan of user fees. I really am. I think it's going to be tough to find a more libertarian way to raise revenue than saying that people who use the roads should pay more for it. Just a fact, man. The people, you could make the same argument that people who use the fire department should pay them more for it. But the problem is, how do you know who uses the fire department until your house is on fire? So you don't really know that, but you do have a pretty good gauge of roads. And the miles tax, the gas tax is one way to absolve that dilemma, because say, look, you drive, you get it. What's going to happen, though, is they're going to start saying, we're going to tax you per mile driven. That's the only way to do it. I got no qualm with it. But that means they're going to keep a gauge on your driver. Do they already do that, man? Do you really think with this thing right here, they don't know where you are at all times? Come on. The idea that we have some sense of, they don't know if I'm driving a Kidder, Missouri or not. Of course they do. They look at your credit card. If you're electric vehicle, you're still going to have to charge every now and again. You think they don't have that? Stop. They have all that if they want it. So you keep a gauge, and I actually like the idea, like State Farm, I think, and USA, I think, does too in 5 states, where they say, we're going to essentially monitor your driving. And if you drive well, we'll lower your rates. If you don't drive that much, we'll lower your rates. If you drive poorly and you drive a lot, we're going to increase your rates. I'm all about that, user fees, man. And that's what's coming. So when they do user fees, that means some of your taxes are going to go up. Now, what they'll probably do, because if you know the government, they're going to do user fees and increase in gas tax and increase in electric vehicle tax as well. And look, man, there's no reason EVs should get out. They're still using the roads. My goodness, asphalt still got to be laid for an electric vehicle. Still runs on rubber traction versus an ICE. So they're going to get you at some point on EVs. You're not escaping that. I guess you could say they also pay a tax for your utility bill to charge whatever batteries to plug anything in. Well, is that going to the roads? Not specifically, for sure. So I'm telling you right now, this is a hidden tax. You're going to pay it. It's coming. And frankly, it's something that needs to be done, needs to be addressed, because otherwise it comes from general revenue, which isn't fair. That's not fair. People on the roads should pay more. But Josh, my business, you pass on the price to consumer. No different than a renter. Some guy said the other day that renters don't pay property taxes. I said, yes, they do. It's called the rent. It's in the price of the rent. They do pay the property tax, not directly. It's indirectly. Same thing with a user fee same thing with the general revenue to pay for the highways. It's not fair to people who don't use it that much. That's just all there is to it. So anyway, the tax is coming. Just be advised. Probably not much you can do to escape that, except not drive much. All right, we'll see you.